Welcome back to another episode of Chatting with Chat. Today, I'm joined by my good friend Pitou Devgon. Pitou is a physician, entrepreneur, healthcare venture capitalist, founder of Velano Vascular, and inventor of the company's patented vascular device technology. In his spare time, he also serves as a Care+Wear moving van when we are in conferences in Philadelphia in storage facilities. So no feat is too small for him. He has since selling his company, he's gone on to advise and invest in early stage healthcare companies while also teaching healthcare innovation and entrepreneurship at the University of Pennsylvania and at Wharton. Pitu, we're really lucky to have you and your perspective as part of our board. Thank you so much for joining us today.
You betcha. Always a pleasure.
Yeah. And what's special about Pitu is I think you were one of the first people I ever met when I started the company and had no idea what I was doing. And we were both vendors walking a floor at a conference at the Association for Vascular Access and just taught me the ropes. So really, it's been great having you along for our journey and really appreciate it as always.
I have fond memories of the glory days of walking the
Yeah.
conference floor as two, younger, slightly younger men.
Yeah, we had more hair. Well, you still have the hair, but I had more hair. It was less gray. It was great. All right. So you've shared previously that some of the biggest problems in healthcare are hiding in plain sight. Can you share some of those everyday frustrations that clinicians have that are still hiding?
Yeah, sure. I've been out of so I was a physician back in the day, and I practiced for about a decade as a hospitalist, part of the University of Pennsylvania and the VA Medical Center next door to Penn. Kind of while I was going to business school and healthcare venture capital, and then eventually for the middle or the beginning and middle of building my company before it became just too much to deal with. So I'm a little bit out of the front line of medicine. I haven't been
Yeah.
there for like 6, 7 years. But I still, I'm also, obviously I'm a patient in the healthcare system. My family becomes patient in the healthcare system. So I see all of this through multiple lenses. Um, so a couple ways to approach it. I think I'm going to steal something I heard from Julie Yu. She spoke in my class yesterday. So she's one of the partners of Andreessen Horowitz on the healthcare side. Really thoughtful, insightful person. If you guys haven't checked out some of her, her posts online, on X and stuff, they're really good. She really is an expert in terms of like the how healthcare works. And one of the things she mentioned was that a lot of our systems and processes have been put in place on the care delivery side to protect the doctor from the patient,
Hmm.
right? So to prevent access, right? You can't just text your doctor, you can't just email them easily. There's lots of layers put in place, mostly because there's a shortage of physicians, right? And there's too many patients that are trying to get access to that, right? So the system is kind of asymmetric in that way, and so by putting all these barriers, whether that's going to be nurse practitioners or just the front desk or
Yeah.
having to use the Epic chart, and it takes days to get responses back. I think that creates a poor experience for patients.
Hmm.
In general, like I think in every other part of your life, and this has been, by the way, this is not novel. I think this has been true ever since I started in healthcare. 20,
Yeah.
30 years ago, people were complaining about the exact same
Right.
thing.
Yep.
And despite all this amazing technology that we have, right? I mean, telemedicine and everything else, like we still basically have this barrier, this kind of invisible but yet very, very obvious barrier between us and our care providers. Um, and I don't know how to solve it, but it makes healthcare kind of suck. To be honest, all the
Yep.
other aspects, right? Your accountant and your lawyer, I mean, you can get to them far easier than you can your doctor most of the
Oh, yeah.
time,
Yeah.
which is a glitch, right? Yeah, I think in the
Totally.
system. So I think that's so I think that's hiding in plain sight. We need to address that either with different care models, different reimbursement models, maybe more out-of-pocket expense, for example, right? And so you see that on the some of the, maybe the wealthier patients in the country going towards concierge medicine to
Yep.
buy that access. But I'm hoping that with technology, whether it's AI, which of course is overhyped and over talked about, but
Yeah.
is there, AI plus more reimbursement for those, 5-minute phone call, 2-minute email kind of situation, I think could maybe incentivize a much more communicative healthcare system, right? Where everybody kind of feels like they're really getting heard and listened to, and they can make small course corrections instead of having to have that, every 6 months I have to do a 20-minute visit in person and, go over 50 different things that doesn't seem like the right way to do it.
Right.
So I think that's kind of one of the things I wanted to talk about is that, and then Maybe another quick one if we have the time is
Yeah.
just so I was thinking about this question because I knew you were going to ask it. Um, I think of my mom. So she passed away last year. She was 90 years old. Had a great life. Unfortunately, at the end, the last couple of years, we were dealing a lot with advanced dementia, and the frustration is, she had. I mean, I'm a physician. I'm her son. I live 3 blocks
Yeah.
away. She lives in a fantastic assisted living facility. It's one of the best in the city, and it was still her. It was still pretty terrible, like in terms of the
Yeah.
her medical care. As an example, anything happens, she falls, she has a fever, the first response is to call 911.
Yep.
And then they call me 5 minutes later. And then, my response is, why did you call 911? I mean, I run over 3 blocks. I meet the
Right.
ambulance there. I basically like look at my mom and get her vital signs. If they're stable, I'm like, go away. We refuse medical care.
Right.
This
Right.
makes no sense to send her to the hospital because that's all they're
Yeah.
going to do is just dump her in the ER somewhere
Yep.
for, for a incredibly expensive and overkill workup when most of the time she's either just got a cold or she slipped, and like it's a very simple story. So I probably avoided 90% of her potential hospitalizations by just being
Because you were
nearby
so close. Yeah.
and having technology. So this is where I think the healthcare system interacts was if you didn't have a physician's son who was kind of a geek and happened to put in, a fall detection
Your words,
sensor
not
and
my
a
words.
camera, you know,
Yeah.
and like I could just say, oh, she fell. Hold on a second, let me just check my phone. And
Yeah.
I can see, oh no, she didn't actually. She was actually trying to get something on the floor and then she just couldn't get up, and so she sat down, but she was tired. There was no trauma. There was
Right.
no reason to transfer. It's not a traumatic issue.
Yeah.
Like I could do that in 1 minute on my phone. And if I can do that, why the hell can't like, either if they call her primary care doc or they
Yeah.
call the nursing people that we use, or they could just look it up themselves.
Yeah.
And so I feel like we spend way too much money in the last, couple of years of life, especially for our folks that are struggling with things like dementia, on useless, stupid care, right? Useless, stupid workups that could be avoided with basic technology that could say what happened. So anyway, that's just another thing I think that's, it's hiding
Is
in
that
plain
you
sight.
think part of, because I'm thinking I had two grandparents in nursing homes, assisted living facilities as well towards the end of their lives. And every time they had an issue, the nursing home was I guess for two reasons. One is legal, right? Worried about getting sued. And two is something's wrong. We don't want to be responsible. We want to get it over to someone who, quote unquote, is responsible. And so maybe you think it's like changing the financial incentives and the legal ramifications as well.
I mean, that's exactly why the process is the way it is today. But here's the
Right.
even frustrating part. So I went to the leadership of this facility. Again,
Yeah.
it's a great facility, and I like them. I think
Yeah.
they do great work in lots of other aspects.
Hmm.
But in this one, they're a national private equity backed
Yep.
large franchise, right? So they have big corporate attorneys. And so I went up the chain to the CEO, not of the national, but at the regional level.
Yep.
And I said, hey, I get it, but I'm willing. She is DNR. She's 90 years old.
Right.
If she falls, I don't want you to call 911. I will sign anything you want. Like I don't need you to do this. Like I will
Yeah.
not sue you. I promise I will
Yeah.
sign
Yeah.
something. And there was just no process for that. And that's the problem.
Mm.
Like there needs to be another avenue. Like, yes, okay, for the average bear, if they fall, you should call 911.
Right.
But for probably 25% of the people in there, that makes no sense. And there should be another, we just don't have another alternative,
Yeah.
another legal structure, a document we could sign. We have like the do not resuscitate and those kind of things, but we need another one that says it's okay not to call 911.
Right.
Please call the family and stay cool.
Yeah.
Like as long as the patient's not in like distress,
Right. Right.
they're
Right.
just kind of
Totally.
sitting there.
And
Um,
this is where I think the application of AI, I agree with you in overhyped, overvalued, etc. But like using AI and cameras to be able to kind of quickly identify what happened, what went wrong, and like even just grading it, right? Like, is it a grade one issue or grade five issue or something? Could be really interesting.
100%. And then, people talk about privacy issues and all of that.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, like I don't think if I was in that situation, would really care if there was a camera watching me, if I could
Right.
avoid having to go to the hospital at 3 in the morning for nothing.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like, and that's the kind of, trade-offs that we need to have a conversation about and have a legal structure to say yes or no to those things,
Right.
or have the family be able to opt in and opt out. I have better technology in my front gate than they have in that facility around like
Yeah.
monitoring people, right?
Yeah.
Like it
Yeah.
has, it has AI enabled person detection, face detection, all of this amazing, it reads license plates. I mean, all this crazy stuff now has become commoditized,
Right.
and we use none of it for the care of the elderly. Like
Yeah.
none of it.
No, so true. Lesson learned, don't try and break into P2's house because he has you.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, exactly. You'll probably get away with the stuff, but we'll at least know, like, we'll have a good picture of your
right,
car.
exactly. Um, so I guess this kind of brings in a little to the next question. When you were building Velano, what was harder, convincing clinicians to change behavior or convincing the system to make room for something new? Or was there a secret third thing that we're not even thinking about?
Sure. So, Velano Vascular was, we had a device that was basically a needle-free approach to drawing blood samples for hospitalized patients called PIVO, P-I-V-O. Patient experience and improving the patient experience was kind of our first motivation of creating the company and the technology. But then we also had other aspects around improving the efficiency of, blood collection, improving sample quality, so we'd have less rejected samples, things like that. So that was kind of our sell to hospitals. The problem with selling to hospitals is that the joke in the venture community, at least in my generation, was that hospitals are the worst customers,
Yeah.
um, because it's such a complex political environment, right? Economic
Mhm.
and political environment to sell to. You're not selling to one person, you're selling to 50 people in the hospital. You need 50 people to say yes to make that sale and that implementation happen. And if one says no, you don't even get the no. You just get silence.
Right.
You sit there for months, like emailing people, it goes into nowhere, you get no response, or you get
Yeah.
oh, we're thinking about it, call us back in a few months, right? You don't know that somebody actually kind of killed the whole thing.
Right.
And they could have killed it for lots of reasons that you could have addressed if you'd only known, right? It's like
Yeah.
either they don't think there's enough data, it's too early, it's too expensive, or whatever it is, but
Yeah.
it's really hard to get that information out of hospitals. And I'm not blaming the hospitals. They're huge organizations doing, just-in-time care, right? They're having to have all these people on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, caring for people to walk off the street. And
Yeah.
so to implement new technology in that environment, I get it. It's supposed to be a little bit tricky, a little
Yeah.
hard. But it's a real barrier. So I would say, so the answer to the question is I think it's all of the above, right? It's both first, you have to convince the leadership of the hospital that your vision of the future, like what your product is going to bring, like usually you have to sell them on a vision, right? Like we are
Yeah.
trying to generate a one stick hospitalization. We're trying to get rid of all the needle sticks in your hospital.
Right.
Is that, do you think that's better for your patients? Is that a better version of the future for your or care organization?
Hmm.
And if they kind of go, yeah, we like that vision, we want to be part of that vision,
Yeah.
get that buy-in, then then the dollars kind of show up.
Right.
But then you have the next level of hell, which is then just because the leadership says yes, doesn't mean that any of the frontline people got the memo, right?
Right.
So now you have to actually like put the product on the shelves, right?
Yeah.
Train everybody, and get departments off. For us, it was a little bit trickier because we had to get we so our single-use disposable device was the blood draw technology, which was ours, but we needed the IV catheter set up to change slightly to be compatible with it. So it was a relatively minor change. At least that's what we thought in the beginning. But then trying to convince the emergency department or the operating room, which are also chaotic environments, to change their practice that they've been doing for 20 years.
Yeah.
They're experts in the way they put up IVs. And so trying to tell them there's a better mousetrap. Oh, and by the way, you're not going to get any of the benefits. You put a better IV in, train all your people, give us an hour of training for all your nurses and staff who are already overworked, just so that the floor team or the ICU can get the benefit now of those patients getting needle-free blood draws for 5 days.
Right.
It's a tough sell. It's a
Yeah.
tough sell. And so that would often create delays in launch. Or when we would launch, we'd have just not a lot of use until we showed up and have to have the individual conversations, usually with kind of you can always find that kind of senior leader, the seasoned veteran person who's kind of like everyone looks to. Like if that person does it, everyone will do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We had to kind of identify those key people, turn them into champions. And there was no way to do it over email. There was no way to do it
Yeah.
over Zoom. You had to fly there, show up at 3 in the morning on their shift, and like show them that you cared
Right.
about what you're doing. You're not a salesperson. You actually like this is the vision. You're trying to change healthcare for the better. And then maybe 70% of the time you'll get, they'll be like, I'm in.
Right.
And then everything kind of unclogs from there and it magically all starts to work. Um, yeah, it was hard.
I was smiling at the showing them in person. I mean, we've seen that firsthand with our gowns. We have videos, we have one pagers, we have everything, you name it, talking about how you want to wear it like a bathrobe. And then we're showing up on implementations and people are wearing them the traditional way. And I'm like, guys, the whole point of changing here is that you, and they're like, oh my God, I didn't realize you could do that. And
Yeah,
you're 100% right. And I still remember, I mean, to your point, it's not that they don't want to change or don't know. I mean, like nurses, for example, many of them have 14. We showed up at one that had 14,000 unread emails. And so she was like, I didn't get any communication on this. And literally the first one was a company-wide email talking about our gown and all the attributes. And I'm like, wait, but it's right there. And she's like, oh, yeah, I haven't read this email in like 3 weeks. I just haven't had time. Um, and so to
totally.
your
Well,
point,
I'll add
it's,
another one. The other
yeah,
aspect is that in, a big health system, there's a lot of private groups that are subcontracted, right? So
yep,
the ER physicians may be a separate private group that's
yep,
contracted by the hospital to provide, ER services,
right.
and they may have a hospital email, but they actually never check it because they don't think of themselves as
Yeah,
employees of the hospital. They
yep,
work for the group.
right.
So anesthesia does that all the time,
Yep.
surgeons, ER, and so you think you've emailed everybody, and
Yeah,
like
and
you're
normally you
wondering why
haven't.
nobody's gotten the email,
Yeah,
right? Like,
no, exactly. Um, all right. So, innovation, everyone always talks about how amazing innovation is, right? It's romanticized, something both you and I know all too well. What part of building the healthcare company was the least glamorous, but most critical to building a strong foundation to be able to scale?
I mean, the first thing that I mean, I'd say like most of it was unglamorous.
Yeah,
Um, so I don't know like how to pick out one. I would say the one that kind of comes to mind, especially for early stage entrepreneurs, right? The first couple years, it's all fundraising. Fundraising is
yeah,
the worst part of building something new. And, no disrespect to investors. I'm on the investor side now myself, and like it's you have to talk to so many people. I would say, talk to 100 funds or 100 investors to get a few to say yes. And
right.
you only need a few usually to get that first chunk of money, like a
Yeah,
pre-seed or a seed round. But that process is a full-time job. And I think one of the what people don't really understand when they're going to entrepreneurship, they think, oh, I'm going to be the CEO of this, cool med tech company. And they think that that's going to be, I think that they're in their mind, I'm pretty sure they're thinking they're going to be in front of a whiteboard with a team and they're gonna be brainstorming with like Venn diagrams
yeah,
and there's gonna be all this engineering work and they're gonna be like, good idea, Bob. Let's put that on the roadmap. And they're
right,
gonna be
right.
building strategy slide. And they think that's gonna be 90% of their job. But what they don't
Yeah,
realize, it's actually about 5 or 10% of their job. It's 90% of their job to just be calling, investors, flying to pitches, getting in
yeah,
front of people, cold emails, begging somebody to introduce you to somebody who knows the other person you're actually trying to get to
yeah,
so you could maybe have a 5 minute coffee chat with them at a conference in a month that you heard they may or may not be going to, that you have to go to, which is,
yeah,
it's like, oh my God, it's terrible.
yeah.
Um, but I mean, that's the process that we put. And
It's the
so
nature of the game.
I think fundraising sucks. I think
Yeah,
fundraising sucks. Now, I will say that, if you can complete a successful fundraise, if you're lucky enough to be a founder that winds up getting to the other side of it, right, and raising an A round or a B round or
yeah,
whatever, um, it's very exciting. That's a fun day, right?
yeah,
I will say that every time we raise money, at Velano, myself and my co-founder, and he was awesome at this, by the way. I will say the other thing is you want to make sure if you have co-founders in your company, you want your co-founder, somebody like my co-founder, a guy named Eric Stone. He was fantastic co-founder and an amazing fundraiser. And thank God, because I actually, even though I'm on the investor side, and I have an investor background.
yeah,
Fundraising is not something I love to do.
right.
And so he was fantastic at it. So thank God he was taking a lot of the hit on that.
Yeah.
Um, and once you raise the money, you open the bottle of champagne. Well, it usually wasn't champagne. It was usually a beer, and it was like, it lasted for about 10 minutes. And then you
Then you go
felt the
back to
entire
work.
stress and weight, right? Of like,
Yeah,
oh God, we just raised all this money. We have all these expectations now from
right.
investors. So usually you got like one night
Yeah.
off, and that was it.
And then it's back to the grind.
Yeah.
All right. So now you've kind of mentioned this a few times, sitting on the other side of the table as an advisor and investor. And you talked about how terrible fundraising is, and I mean, we've been doing this for over 11 years, and I will tell you, I still hate fundraising. Except for anyone that's an investor in us, we love you all, yourself included. But what's something that founders often get wrong in their first pitch?
So this is mostly critique of like the first time founders who are
Yeah.
early on, right? Because I think they
Yep.
figure this out. They have to figure this out. The ones who are successful figure this out very quickly, which is that they talk way too much about their product or their solution, right?
Hmm.
About the widget.
Yep.
And so if you have, say, a 30-minute pitch or an hour-long pitch, they're spending, most of it on that, and they're not spending it on the business itself, right? Like the business model, how they're going to make money. I mean, unfortunately, at the end of the day, right? It's all about this is a capitalistic entity or a project.
Yep.
How are you going to make money? There's a lot of great ideas and great products that should exist, but they're bad businesses, right?
Right.
The margins are bad. There's too much competition, whatever. Your customers are tough to sell to. The sales cycles are too long,
Yep.
whatever it is. As an investor, I want to hear all of those problems and how you're going to mitigate those things in
Mm.
that pitch.
Yeah.
Like I care. I mean, obviously, to get in the door, I have to like the general idea, right? Like, oh,
Right.
a cool idea, it's a cool project, a cool
Yep.
technology, whatever. But that's like 5 minutes. Like I'm like, okay, I get it. Like it's a catheter, it's a device, it's an
Yep.
implant, it's whatever. Like, okay, and you're solving this disease, great. And your TAM is $1 billion, great. Okay. So what are the problems that you're about to hit when you commercialize this?
Mm.
And if they don't have like a laundry list of all the things they're worried about and how they're gonna like mitigate them or how they're gonna navigate that,
Yeah.
then I get nervous that they don't really know what they're doing.
Right.
Right. It's okay to talk about risks with your early investors. Like they want to it reassures them that that it's going to be hard.
That's an uphill
Um,
battle.
yeah, like I'm real nervous about those founders that don't have a lot of great responses to like, okay,
Yeah.
what's keeping you up at night? And they're like, oh, just R&D. And I'm
Ha.
like, R&D is never the problem.
Right.
Like
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
so
Can always find plenty of research.
yeah,
Uh,
right. I mean, with enough money, you can find expertise to build almost anything.
yeah.
But if it's very hard to change industry business model or to get a new code from CMS or whatever the thing is that you're going into, what the risk
Right.
is.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so that's what I
No,
think.
for sure. All right. So at Care+Wear, we talk a lot about empathy-driven design. From your perspective, what's the cost of ignoring empathy in healthcare products, not just emotionally, but also operationally?
Sure. So I don't know if I have a great response to this one. I think that, we similarly at Velano and like in Care+Wear, right? We
Yeah.
we really put the patient experience first.
Yeah.
So empathy was all wrapped up into that, right? Like we're basically on the same mission to improve patient experience, which is obviously notoriously hard to quantify in terms of
Yep.
dollar value
Yep.
and all of that, right? So that was always a struggle.
Hmm.
Um, so I go back to the kind of comment I made earlier about how if you can convince the frontline users, right, the frontline providers, like the nurses, the doctors, whatever, that you're on their team
Yeah.
on behalf of their patients, and you really mean it. Like you're there at 3 in the morning, you're
Right.
training, you're providing advice, you are thinking about their patients the same way that they'd be thinking about them.
Yeah.
You will get irrational allies. Like they will support you through thick and thin, even when they shouldn't. Right.
Yep.
And you have to earn it. It's blood, sweat, and tears. But when you
Yeah.
earn it, you usually get a pretty long leash at those accounts and at those hospitals. I think that's critical in the early adopter ones. You have to really be there, and they need to feel like. I mean, we knew the names of most of like the kids of like our early of the nurses
Yeah.
that were using our product in the first couple of years.
Yeah.
We were there 12 hours a day for 2 to 3 weeks, coming back every month or two, checking in, how you doing, phone calls. We took all their advice and then we told them which advice we were going to implement in the new generation of product and like, like gave them the credit for like, hey, thank you so much, like Bob or whatever, right? Like, or Ed, there was a gentleman named Ed.
Yeah.
Um, and then we actually like, showed them that we were listening to them. Not only do we care about their patients, but we're listening
Yeah.
to them and then we're making those changes to make it better. Man, they never left us.
Is that where you think having a being a founder is actually an unfair advantage because this is your baby as a founder? Like there's a reason, like both of us had personal stories for why we wanted to start our companies. There were things that we had seen that we wanted to improve on. Is that like an unfair advantage for you as an entrepreneur or leader?
I would say it's the critical advantage that all founders need to go up against the big companies and
Yeah.
competitors, right? Which, I mean, usually they don't get that access
Right.
because they're usually sending a sales rep, right? And so the
Yeah.
hospital's like, oh, sales rep, block, block,
Right.
block, block.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when you show up and you're like, hey, I'm an early entrepreneur, I'm a founder, I'm the inventor, they're shocked. They're shocked that you showed up. You're like, wait, you're
Yeah.
the inventor of this? And you're like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's my thing. Like, can I tell you about it? And it's
Right.
hard for people to say no when you're like, I'm the person who like
Yeah.
built this, or And so, but that's the critical advantage we need, right, to get in the door, because
Totally.
otherwise, we don't have the budgets in the first, many years to send 1,000 reps, out into the
Right.
field.
Wish we did, but I agree. I mean, I also think it's funny whenever anyone's like, "Oh my God, I'm talking to the CEO." I'm always, at least under my breath, I'm like, "Yeah, but you're also talking to the janitor, the mailroom attendant, like, wearing multiple hats for sure." Um,
100%.
yeah. All right. So now some quick questions. What book are you reading or have you most recently read that you're really enjoying?
Oh man. Oh God, that is a tough one. I have not read, I'll be honest, I have not read a book in a long time. So I have 3 kids under 6.
I was gonna
Uh,
say, I was expecting you to pick a good children's book that
I, oh,
you've
yeah,
been
actually,
reading.
well, if you're gonna count, if you're gonna open the universe of
Yeah.
children's books, oh gosh, we love the Bluey series. So like not only the
Yep.
cartoon, but like they have the Bluey books that kind of
Hmm.
also are part of the series. So my 4-year-old loves the Bluey ones.
Okay.
Um, Moo Moo, uh, Moo Moo Balala, is a great book for my 2-year-old. It's like a
Okay.
run. God, who's Sandra Boynton. Sandra Boynton. She has great rhymes. She's
Yeah.
awesome. And my 6-year-old, I'm hoping that my 6-year-old is going to start to upgrade into like, eventually we're going to get into like the Harry Potter and stuff, maybe when
Yeah.
he's like
Yeah.
7 or
Yeah.
8, but we're not there yet. So he
Not
just kind
there
of
yet.
tags along with
Okay.
the 4-year-old who has stronger opinions about books before bed. So he just kind
I
of
think
sits there and
six
is
was
like,
when I
okay,
started reading the Boxcar Children, if I remember correctly. I thought those were
oh,
amazing back in the day.
okay, okay,
Yeah. I don't think they exist anymore, I would assume, but
okay, okay.
what is your favorite restaurant in Philadelphia?
Oh, interesting. There's so many now that have really exploded. Michelin was here in Philly recently, so now we have Michelin star restaurants
Oh,
for the
wow.
first
Okay.
time. They
Yeah.
put us on the map, so now Philly's got Michelin stars. Um, Kalaya, I would say in Philadelphia. So I love
Yeah.
spicy Asian food in general, and
Hmm.
Kalaya is really authentic, super spicy Thai food, and I love it. So.
Love that. And then what is something that you are excited about for 2026?
Wow, 2026. I would say that I am honestly like, even though we talk about AI, we all poo-poo the AI thing, right? Oh, it's overhyped, it's blah
Yeah,
blah
yeah,
blah. I'm actually kind of excited about it. I think that there's some I've started to play around myself a lot, just on a personal level,
yeah.
and like
Hmm.
my investor group is starting to play around with using AI to evaluate deals and go through like
Yep,
have like ChatGPT go through diligence and things like that and help you due diligence. I think there's going to be some really interesting agentic changes that I'm going to start seeing in healthcare. I think 2026, maybe it's a little early, maybe I'm being overly optimistic, but I think we're starting to see the beginning of true adoption with
yeah,
AI in healthcare.
yeah.
I definitely think we're going to see it in 27, 28, and things move a little slower, but I
Agreed.
think the early adopters are now starting to really engage and like put their teeth in at
Yeah,
the health system level. And so I think that's going to be very cool.
yeah,
Um, Now, the only problem is I don't know how to invest in it anymore, right? So we as a group, and my Robinhood Ventures is my band of angels. We're the largest group in like the Philly area. We're about 80 members, and we do a decent amount of investing, and actually half of it's in healthcare. And we still struggle to come up with our thesis, with AI.
yeah,
We're for most of these things, we're probably 3 or 4 years too late to
yep,
get it early because now these things have exploded.
yep.
So, like, where's the next wave? And that's kind of our challenge. It's something I'm excited about, but I'm also the challenge for 26 is what the heck are we going to do about AI in healthcare as
Right.
an early stage investor group? What's
Yep,
our thesis? And we don't
yeah.
really have one right now, I would say. So,
Got it. I'm about to add an AI subsidiary of Care+Wear just to help with the fundraising, I guess. But all bad jokes aside, Pitou, thank you so much for joining us today. This has been awesome.
you bet. Thank you so much, chat.
Yeah.